to the room.
Cool.
So this is just for Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Devshop Live. Everybody, please take a seat. If you're just coming in now, we have overflow seating upstairs. We've got a really great lineup for you today. I'm really excited to present today's Devshop. If you're tuning in live online, please click the live little red dot at the bottom of your screen so that you can sync up with the live stream coming out of HQ. And you can tweet your comments and questions for the speakers in using hashtag #MeteorDevshop. Our first speaker today is Phil Cockfield. Phil is a co-founder of Respondly, which is built with Meteor. Companies including Stripe, Pocket, and Tweetbot use Respondly to manage customer email and Twitter conversations as a team. Phil is both a designer and a full-stack engineer, and he has a long-held interest in architectural strategies to modularize and test UI in an isolated fashion. Phil is currently working on a new way to construct UI, blending manual manipulation with automated unit tests. Please welcome Phil.
G'day. Hello, everyone. Today, I'm going to be talking mostly around UI, and I'm going to start with unpacking Respondly and giving a feel for what we've done in Respondly and the surface area of the Respondly UI. But then I want to move it into talking about modular design, how we can start breaking our UIs, particularly as they get extremely large, into modular patterns, which leads into the UI harness. So with that, let's look at Respondly as it was introduced. Respondly is a tool to help folks respond on social media as a team. Kind of the value proposition here, imagine you have your own Twitter account and how difficult that can be just on your own, managing that, staying on top of it. But then imagine if you had a friend or a group of friends and you all had to talk with a consistent voice through that Twitter account. It gets really complex. So this is where Respondly's value proposition comes in, which is to provide a whole bunch of real-time coordination tools so that teams can operate in a coordinated fashion as a single unit coming through social media, starting with Twitter. So to do that, and simulate, kind of get a feel for what this is all about, I've created a fake organization here called Fake Meteor. And we will all be team members of Fake Meteor, and we'll be managing Fake Meteor's at Fake Meteor Twitter account through Respondly. So I'll jump over to the browser and bring up Fake Meteor. It's loading now, and we've got a bunch of tweets coming in. If I select a tweet, we can see that we get a parent-child relationship here. We can see the conversation flow. I can move through it. I'm going to have a look at the team. If I open this panel here, we get the entire team. Maybe I'll add another team member. Let's jump through Colin Durant. And if any of these people want to log in, we can see the real-timeness of this as the users come in and we're all moving around and collaborating. Cool. So this person's just come in. It's Katie. I can see Katie's online. I can see she's online. I can also see she's active. It's got a little green dot. If she was inactive for 30 seconds, that would disappear. If she was inactive for longer, that would fade back. But I would still notice she's online. She probably has a tab open and walked away from it. Here we've got collision control, or at least collision prevention coming on with me and, who's this? Emily Stark is looking at the same tweet here. So we know that we're not going to walk over each other. I'm either going to not respond to that tweet. What I might do is say, hey Emily, I want to take this one. And so we can have an internal private conversation on there. What I also might do is say, let's follow up on this one, say next week, pass that into a date. I'll add me and let's put Emily on it as well. And that will now follow up in 7 days. I could archive that, get it out of the stream. Also, another feature of this is that it's entirely drivable from the keyboard. So I've just hit the little icon down here. I'll bring up the key hints, including a key hint for key hints. So at any point, we can hit question mark, and we can see what can I do at this point. This is often a problem with key enabling applications, to go somewhere else, learn all the key. So yeah, so that's that. And I didn't want to spend too much time on Respondly because I wanted to get back into looking at UI, and we'll move forward and unpack some of the UI here and look at modularity. So by way of analogy, this is how I would like to think UI code is beautifully tended Zen garden. And this is probably true, and certainly it is true with all code, but it feels more true with UI code. The moment you turn your back, this is what it does on you, right? Like it just turns into this jungle, tangled mess. And so what do we have at our disposal to bring it back into this beautifully pristine, curated fashion? And there's three kind of moves here. It's all around encapsulation, breaking problems down and encapsulating it as much as possible, which enables reuse and then ultimately leads towards applying a nice dry, don't repeat yourself principle. Within Meteor, there's the overall organizing system for that, which is the packages. Package system's really quite beautiful in terms of how it handles bringing the client and the server-side code together and managing that, and in particular the namespacing system that it opens up. Then within that, we have this thing called a control, or a UI control, which is a thin wrapper we put around the templating system, which is mostly to do with enabling formal APIs on top of the control. There are a bunch of other helpers that we put in there, but really it's about how do we get an API that we want to publish out as a contract for other consumers of the control. So to give you an idea of that, make that abstract idea a little more concrete, this is the follow-up controls or set of controls that we saw in Respondly. The way that breaks up into a whole bunch of controls is like this. You know, there's a user selector there. The user selector brings up a user select list, and then within that, the list is a set of items, which ultimately all sits inside a pop-up. And each one of those controls is responsible for doing a very isolated thing. But when we think about that, and we think about it in terms of reuse, we have this spectrum. And reuse is not free, right? So reuse is this Shangri-La. Isn't it great if we can all get to reusing everything? But where on the spectrum of hard to easy do we sit? So on this side, you'll have stuff that's like totally not reusable. You just shove it into your app where it is. You can't use it again, and that's probably about the easiest thing you can do to get going. But then it gets expensive later on because you've got to rewrite it to move forward or refactor it out. Over on this end of the spectrum, you've got stuff that's like totally, utterly reusable, but that's incredibly hard, particularly when you bring in a long tail of possible edge conditions. The classic case is a third-party control of like a data grid, right, that does every damn thing possible. Incredibly hard to write. What we see is this beautiful sweet spot in the middle, somewhere between idiosyncratic reuse and good enough reuse. So idiosyncratic reuse would be in your app. It's relevant to your value proposition of your app, but you can reuse it within that context. Over on this side is good enough reuse, where it makes sense to reuse in a generic fashion, but you're wiping off that long tail of doing every possible edge case condition. It's just good enough for you, or you and a few others in your friends of companies. So the way we factor Respondly is, in support of that, is like this. We have two repositories, the Respondly app, which is where all the idiosyncratic reuse exists, and then we have this other thing called core packages, where we have controls that are intended to be reused that have nothing to do with Respondly's specific value proposition. So if we take a look at that, here's an example of that kind of thing. We have a list of all of our internal controls. If I have a look at this one, here's the slider. It's quite an isolated control. I can manipulate it through UI, change its size, put messages on, and so forth. Other examples of that, let's have a look at, say, the overlay system. This was the thing that was bringing up the key controls. We might have an overlay system in a sequence, so we could step through things. Get rid of that, done. Through to quite sophisticated or large-scale organization structures. This is the millicolumn system that we used, where we could add multiple columns, and the entire app was structured within this. So I want to point out here, what we're doing is looking at this control, But then we have a bunch of buttons up there that are just ad hoc thrown in with event handlers where I put custom code behind it to exercise and manipulate the API. And that's good. It's certainly better than not isolating a control and testing it, but it has some drawbacks, and this gets us up to where we're taking things now, which is the idea of a UI harness. It's a DSL that we're developing for rapidly building clean and reusable UI in a modular fashion. And what it does is it takes ad hoc scaffolding on this side, which has these beautiful virtues, right? Super flexible, I can do anything I want with it. I can manually manipulate it, which is the key thing as a UI developer, right, is to get it up and to poke it around and click on it and so forth. But I can also programmatically manipulate the API from the outside. On the other side, we have unit tests, which have these qualities. We can describe behavior in a formal manner, so there's a design component to it. We can assert correctness, which then means we can automate it and bring it into a CI situation, a continuous integration server. So with that, we've started with the behavior-driven development semantics as our DSL base. So anyone who has come from RSpec or RubyLand will recognize this. A describe statement will describe my thing. Within that, we have a set of suites, or sorry, within that suite, we have a set of specs. So it does something. And then within that, we expect a value to equal something. We can assert its correctness. So if I jump over and show how this works in the UI harness, this is the UI harness here on the right. And I can start, say, describing something. Let's describe Devshop. And we'll see Devshop shows up in the UI. Within that, say I'm going to describe something called Galaxy, which is a control I prepared. If I step into this, this suite, we can see galaxies there. I'll step into that. And then what I'll do is before everything, I will load a control called Galaxy. What that's now doing is getting the control up so that we can manipulate it. From there, I can start doing a bunch of assertions on it. Say there's control and it has a method. It has two methods, show a meteor and hide a meteor. So I'll create some specs for that. Show the meteor, hide the meteor. Here I'll get a reference to the control, call the show meteor method, and then call the hide meteor method. These have now shown up here as runnable specs. If I run that, we get a meteor showing up. If I hide it, it disappears. So what we're doing here is achieving everything that we did prior with our ad hoc specs or our ad hoc test page, except it's in a purely formal way. We can now run these specifications through a CI server or through something like Velocity and then plug it into a CI server. And we could put assertions in here to say, when that method runs, was the meteor there? Was it present? Was it in the state that we expected it to be? Taking this a little bit further, which is where we begin to extend the BDD dynamic DSL further, is to say, and now there's a property on this control called isRed. And isRed is a Boolean method. So I can go it.boolean isRed. And now I don't even have to put any test code behind that spec. It's brought the isRed in, assumed that it's Boolean, and gives me this toggle. And so now I can set that value and change it, and so forth. And with that, I have 2 minutes left, so we can go straight to questions. Sorry, could you repeat the question?
You've got extension for Booleans. Do you expect to have maybe like a text box? Or
Yeah. So that's the interesting place we can go to. The question was, we've got Boolean here, it.boolean. What are the other directions that we'll be taking the DSL in? Obviously, we want to add strings. We want to add the ability for radio buttons for common options where we have multi-choice options. and potentially putting arbitrary objects and passing those in as parameters. So that's one area of the way that we can take the DSL and reduce the friction in creating this the test junk, all the junk for manipulating it. The other thing here is to bring documentation closer to the control as well. So we'll be looking at initially putting the ability to have a markdown file next to the controls, and then have the test harness be able to load, pass and load that markdown, so we can be manipulating the control, watching it, and then reading whatever extended explanations the developer wanted to give about that control, as well as passing through the JavaScript and extracting out inline comments and having documentation within there as well.
When can we see something here?
So this will be, well, it is open source. The question is, when can we see something, in particular at the domain uiharness.com, www.uiharness. It's open source. I'm waiting for the new packaging system to drop. So when 0.9 comes out and the new package server's out, we'll be pushing all of this stuff out there.
Any other questions from the room?
Yes?
I may be misunderstanding, but how is this better to use than Bootstrap UI components and stuff like that?
Oh, how's the control piece better? The question is, how is this better than Bootstrap? Let me jump through to the slide that brought this up. I guess the question could be reframed like, how is Meteor better than Bootstrap, right? Or how is it different? This is a thin wrapper around the templating system, and this is how we define it, right? So all that's really doing is saying, oh, there's this template, and it's called type, or it's called widget, it's called follow up. The first three methods there are lifecycle methods. So init is the equivalent of created. We actually started this a long time ago before Blaze came along. So we to wrap around Spark, and so it actually brought a lot more to the table because Spark wasn't doing a lot of this stuff. And then Blaze came through as a massive improvement, and a lot of stuff that we were doing with the wrapper is now just done natively in Blaze. But the concept it's the biggest concept here is that API and that notion of, I've got all of this internal private code that only makes sense. Like, I don't want the world to see that. I don't want a consumer to see helper methods that make no sense, and I never intended them to call it. So everything that goes on the API gets put into its own object that then gets presented out to the world. So we can get a hold of that control. Someone can work with that. And we keep all of our internal stuff away. With respect to how is it better than Bootstrap, I don't think it's really in the same category. It certainly brings how would you see it?
I guess I'll rephrase the question. So I like that this kind of encapsulates the Meteor template system. But say when we use Bootstrap, we like to customize the way it looks, the CSS of that. How do we do that with these encapsulated UI elements from UI Harness?
How do you customize the control?
Yeah,
so the UI harness makes no assumptions about what you're going to dump into it. It doesn't care. So that control, let me bring up the control that we looked at, the Galaxy control. It's in three parts. That's the JavaScript or the CoffeeScript. That's the HTML, and that's the style sheet. So the UI harness didn't know what that was until we told it, go find a control that has has a definition called Galaxy or a name called Galaxy, and then take it and render it there. And really, all it was doing was telling Blaze, take this template that you have and render it there. So there's no assumptions about what that content would be. So you'd style it any way that you wanted.
okay.
Yeah.
You could use Bootstrap, use those styles.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Respondly uses Bootstrap as its base.
We have a question from Twitter. So Yuri asks, how many people are on the Respondly team? How long did it take to develop?
Right. So Respondly's two of us. It's Tim Haynes and myself. We've been bootstrapping it to date, and we're just about to bring on more developers.
Great. And how long did it take to develop, and how did you collaborate with designers?
Okay, so 12 months we've been working on this. We started within 3 months of starting. We'd bought the first set of companies on. We've been officially released since April, but we've had the likes of Stripe on for 7 or 8 months, and we've been using that as a design feedback to really make sure that we're building something that can be used in production in a workhorse fashion. We're both designers, so we've been able to go a long way. Like, we're both engineers and designers, and so we can cover a lot of ground without, one, having to raise, and two, having to bring on more people to get to where we are. But now we're growing.
Any other questions from the room? All right, we're going to take a short break. Our next talk begins at 7:30, and will be Mike Risse presenting MeteorPad. Thank you very much, Phil.
Thank you.
Okay, let's get started again. Next up, we have Mike Risse. Mike Risse studied physics as an undergrad at Carleton College before starting his software career with a 6-month stint in India. He went on to work in the game industry for several years before co-founding MadEye, a tool for remote pair programming. Recently, he's been actively involved with Velocity, the official testing framework for Meteor built by the Meteor community. Today, he's here to tell us about MeteorPad, which will make it easier than ever to quickly try out Meteor code. Please welcome Mike.
Hey everyone, my name is Mike Risse, and I'm really excited to announce MeteorPad today. MeteorPad is a project I've been working on closely with MDG, and it basically lets you edit and run Meteor code in the browser. But before I give you a full walkthrough of MeteorPad, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the inspiration behind it. So a quick show of hands, how many of you are familiar with JS Fiddle? Okay, so most of you, for those of you that aren't familiar, JS Fiddle is like a great way to test out client HTML, client JavaScript, client CSS. And then once you have something cool, you can share it with other people. CodePen is another site that is a lot like JS Fiddle. You see a lot of people putting like up portfolios of like these really cool HTML5 pens on CodePen. So I'd encourage you to check that out as well. And I've spent the past year and then some working on MadEye, which is a tool for remote pair programming. And it's working on MadEye where I got pretty familiar with web editors, web terminals, and how those integrate with file systems. And that brings me to MeteorPad. So what you see is something that's kind of like JS Fiddle and CodePen, except it has a terminal running inside of it. But instead of talking about a screenshot, I think it's time for the real demo. So I'm just going to go here to MeteorPad.com. And you see a server starting here in the bottom. And now we have the leaderboard app running over here. And this is a fully functional leaderboard app. But just to prove that this is actually what it's running, let's change this a little bit. I'm going to claim this leaderboard app as my own. So I'll press save here. And we'll see the server restarted. And now we have an H1 tag over there. So that's pretty cool. We have an HTML file here. We also have a JavaScript file, which is shared between the client and the server, a client-only JavaScript file, server-only JavaScript file, and some CSS. Now, as I was scrolling by here, you might have noticed these little selectors over here. So if I'm more of a CoffeeScript kind of a person, I can change it. And two things happened here. One is the CoffeeScript package was added to the project. And two, the app broke, because this isn't valid CoffeeScript code. So I'm going to fix that error there. And I need to put an @ sign here to make players a global variable. And this time I'm just going to save with Command S. And we see the server restarted again. And it looks exactly the same. So let me just resize this a little bit here. So I'm going to add just a little comment here. So you believe me that this is actually what's running. And we can see the server started comment down here. So besides CoffeeScript, there's a lot of other packages that can be included. Anything that is a Meteor package works right now. So this includes all the accounts. I'm going to add Bootstrap here, though, just so we can see it quickly change the way that this looks over here. So the server will restart again. And it looks a little bit different, actually a little bit worse. So I'm going to get rid of Bootstrap. Something else that's kind of cool is I can change the version of Meteor. So if I'm trying to reproduce a bug or something, and maybe I want to see if that happened in 0812, I can press that, and everything restarts with 0.8.1.2 as the version. This is the title of my pad. This is just for like the user's reference. But you can see it there, and I changed the name down here, Mike's leaderboard. Now, what if I want to share this with somebody else, though? I can copy the URL here, and I'm going to simulate a new user with the incognito tab. And if I go to this pad, I also see Mike's leaderboard, but I'm going to get a completely different server running down here. Come on. There may be a slight problem there. But the important thing to notice on this is that there is a save copy button here instead of a save button, and that's because, in this case, the anonymous user does not own the pad. So they are able to run the pad, but they're not able to save this copy of it. So I'm going to go back to the presentation now for a bit and talk a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes. So how many of you are familiar with Docker? OK, so I'm going to give a really brief, partially incorrect summary of it, which is that it provides isolation between environments, and you can think of it as a lighter weight version of VMs. But it's really cool, and you should check it out if you haven't already. So this is the basic architecture behind MeteorPad.com. So you see that there is the proxy up here at the top, which goes to 3 different Meteor apps, each running MeteorPad. And then all of your files are stored in a Mongo database. If you hit one of these URLs with a different subdomain, then you are redirected to one of the Meteor containers. And this is where each of your MeteorPad apps are run. So one concept that I wanted to stress is that one pad can have many containers. So a pad is basically just a collection of source code. And you can have multiple, every one of your browser tabs is essentially a different running instance of that app. So before I finished, I wanted to talk about what I see as some of the use cases for MeteorPad. One of the main motivating ones was to make it easier to try out Meteor. All you need is a link, and it works on any modern web browser. So that's pretty cool. And I've always been kind of surprised how few people are willing to type one command in their terminal to install Meteor. And my hope here is that giving them a link makes it easier. Being able to experiment with Meteor packages. Today, this is somewhat useful, as you can try out all the different Meteor packages. But where this is really going to become powerful is when Atmosphere packages are brought into Meteor with 0.9, and anyone can demo or try out a package using MeteorPad. Another use case is reproducing bugs. So this was really exciting for me today. I picked a random issue on GitHub, and you'll see this a lot of times where somebody creates a repo where the bug can be reproduced. So I looked at this guy's repo, and then I brought it into MeteorPad and put a link to a MeteorPad reproduction. And 2 minutes later, David Glasser labeled the bug. And not long after, David Greenspan commented and closed it. And I'd like to hope that MeteorPad made it a lot easier for this to happen. And in the future, reproducing bugs will be a lot easier. So yeah, friends are too lazy to install Meteor. I think I kind of covered that. So go ahead and try it out now. It's in alpha right now. And there's a few things that are worrying me. One is that it hasn't been extensively performance tested. Another is that the data center is currently undergoing maintenance as we speak. And I'm also going to be out of town for the next few days to see a friend of mine get married. So it might be a bit of a rocky start, but in time it will be stable, and I hope that you guys can get as excited about it as I am. If you have any questions, comments, bug reports, let me know. Probably the best way is email, but I also have my Twitter handle up there as well. Thank you.
Questions from the audience? Slava has a question.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, Slava? That's a great question. Is data persisted to the database? So data is persisted to a database, but one of the things is that these containers are very aggressively shut down. So when your pad starts up again, it's probably going to be a different machine with a different database. So like any of this score data over here is not something that you should rely on being kept. Future versions of MeteorPad are going to try a little bit harder to persist the database across sessions, but for right now, assume that it's disposable. Oh, okay. So there's a question about these two buttons up here. So one of these is a reload, and the other one will open it up in a new tab. So this is something that if we wanted to sort of do the classic Meteor demo that shows how it works across browsers, we could do that.
Slava.
Are there any plans for Pro plans or any additional features?
Any additional plans for?
Like professional plans?
Oh, professional plans. I'd say it's a possibility, but haven't really thought that far ahead, honestly.
Is there a way to import a repo, or do you have to copy and paste all of the individual files?
So the question was, is there a way to import a repo? Currently, no. It is one of the higher priority features. Yeah, two of the things that I'm excited about are having an easy way to upload into MeteorPad, and whether that's like from a repo or a command that you run, like the command line, that's something like Meteor, like MeteorPadify or something. That's to be determined. The other is like a download button, where if you have a pad, then you can press it and you get a zip, which would be like the Meteor app. So not yet, hopefully soon. Uh-huh.
Go ahead.
Is the editor, what do you call it, collaborative? If two people are editing the same file, what happens?
Is the editor collaborative? No, it's not collaborative right now. Only the owner of the pad is able to edit it. If somebody else wants to make changes, they have to basically fork that pad. Having come from Mad Eye, where it was a collaborative editor, I'm interested in that space, but I think, at least right now, it's not a super high priority feature.
Any other questions from the room? All right.
Is there a way to access the client console from that the main window of that running app?
Is there a way to access the client console from the main app? Kind of. So I'm not sure how much debugging you've done with iframes in general. There's nothing too fancy going on this page. This leaderboard over here is just an iframe. But let's see what happens if I do open up the inspector. Oh, I get a message that warns me about being here. And the reason it warns you is because it's kind of deceiving, where you will see console log output here, but you will not, if I type any commands, they're running against the MeteorPad application and not against the application in the iframe. If you want the commands to go against the iframe, you can select it from this dropdown here. But in general, I'd say your better bet is to open up a separate window and use a Chrome inspector there.
Any other questions for Mike? Right. Very impressive, Mike. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
At this time, if I could ask all Lightning Talk speakers to please find your way to this corner of the room, and we're going to be starting Lightning Talks in 5 to 10 minutes. So for the rest of you, can stand up, stretch your legs, go to the bathroom, get a drink, and we will be starting again shortly. 5 minutes early, so we're going to start in 3 minutes. All right, welcome back. We're about to begin Meteor Devshop Lightning Talks. If you're only just now tuning in to the live stream, please click the little live red dot at the bottom of the screen to sync up in real time with the feed coming from HQ. And tweet in your questions and your comments with hashtag Meteor Devshop. We have a great lineup for you of Lightning Talks, 9 talks. You can go to lightning-talks.meteor.com to see the lineup. First up, we have Slava Kim, who is a core developer at Meteor.
Hi, my name is Slava. I'm a core developer in Meteor. And today, I'm going to talk about Meteor Redis support, experimental Redis support. So if you come to DevShops often, you probably have caught this talk. It's a talk by Justin Santababa on DevShop May 2014. And he talked about experiments with Redis. And since then, we collaborated with Justin, and we shipped experimental Redis support for Meteor. Not experiments now, just support. And it is on the Atmosphere. And you can download it now, and you can use it in your projects and help us find all the bugs. So a little bit about Redis, if you don't know what it is. It is an in-memory key-value data storage with on-disk persistence. So it's known to be quite fast, faster than it might replace MongoDB in your stack for your application. And it is known for having a lot of different data structures, such as strings, hashes, sets, ordered sets, list, etc. So when Justin presented his talk, he had an idea to replace all Meteor collections with Meteor Redis collections. What that would do, it would preserve the same API of MongoDB, but use Redis as backend store. So it would be really easy to swap the database. You don't need to port any code, and you will still use the same Mongo queries. The problem was it's quite hard to translate all the Mongo queries to Redis API, and you lose all the speed that Redis gives you. Another approach we went with was just a direct Redis support, have the same API as raw Redis, and create mini Redis as a client cache. And we can see that it's a clear performance win because you don't need to keep extra cache or anything like this. You don't need to translate every query. So what is mini-Redis? There are 2 packages that we released. First one is mini-Redis. The second one is Redis Live Data. Mini-Redis is an in-memory data structure similar to mini-Mongo. You use it as a browser cache for your application to quickly access it and have latency compensation. Also, we have Redis Live Data, and that's like the heavy package that implements PubSub, security rules, deals with pushing data to the clients, and so on. And particularly, it implements the latency compensation by simulating actions on the browser and then calling the RPC on the server. So here's a very bad diagram, how it works. We have Blaze and each block helper. That's what you use in your templates. Blaze usually uses a cursor for mini-Mongo, but now it also can use your mini-Redis cursor. And it calls observe changes on that cursor. And mini-Redis is connected with DDP over the WebSocket, and you implement PubSub logic in your app code. And publications are also implemented by observe changes, but now on the server side. And that's where it works. Like it works in Redis Live Data on the server part. Also, some pieces of your application code can use observe changes. And it all comes from Redis key space identifications. So the common usage patterns for Redis, usually you have a bunch of keys, and since everything is flat key value store, you kind of structure your model inside keys. For example, you can have a key called users, :, ID of the user, : and then a field name. And then the value of this key value pair would be the actual value, as it would be in a Mongo document, for example. So it's very common to have a pattern like this. So we created this concept of mini-Redis cursors and Redis cursors. Those represent a particular subset of data. And they work on pattern matching. You can say, give me everything that corresponds to user number 1, and it will give you basically the representation of that data subset. And you can fetch it or start observing that if this data changes. So what works? We implemented strings and hashes, and as far as we understand, that's the most common use case for data that you push to your client. Every other data structure you usually use only on the server. For example, you wouldn't fetch a giant set to your client. You just use it server side to quickly look up something. And same goes with other data structures. So we implemented only strings and hashes so far, and it seems to be sufficient. We implemented latency compensation, meaning that your app is still responsive, and you can have any operation happening on the data store literally in milliseconds, and then it will go to the server and actually do the query. So we also implemented the each support for Blaze and allow denial rules, PubSub, auto-publish, insecure, everything you would expect. What doesn't work? As I said, you probably don't want to push giant data sets to the client anyway, so we didn't even bother implementing different data structures and big hashes. Every time some hash changes, it will send the whole hash to the client without diffing. And we didn't implement accounts because accounts is very Mongo specific at this point. So if you want to have an advanced account system with password recovery, emails, and OAuth support, you would need to use Mongo probably. But all operations on Redis still would be fast. And it is on Atmosphere. It is on GitHub. We host it under Meteor namespace. If you want to contribute, you can submit a pull request with tests or maybe even features implemented, but please talk to us before you do it, so you don't waste time. And we also will welcome any community support as bug reports or fixes to documentation. We have a pretty good documentation so far, I think. We describe the whole process, how do you set up your Redis server and connect to it. And you can use, I think, any popular hosted Redis provider, anyone who provides you key space notifications, that would be good enough. So on that, I want to show the Atmosphere page. It has 9 downloads, very exciting. And a test app that we built, which is also open source. It's called Redis Example. It is a clone of Yo, which is a popular app recently. The domain is meteor.meteor.com. You can log in with any name because it doesn't have accounts, and you can Yo people like this, and I can Yo myself. And I can see that one of my friends Yo'd me. That's cool. Thank you. Thanks. No, please don't Yo me. And obviously, yeah, it's like mobile optimized. I can swipe left and right and delete people. So I just deleted myself. So yeah, that's a good starting point to see how you would use Redis. And thank you.
Thank you, Slava. We have time for 1 or 2 questions. Yes.
Are we able to add both Mongo and Redis support in the same application?
So the question was, can we use both Redis and Mongo in the same applications? The answer is yes. That was the whole point. Like, if you want, you want to use something that looks more like a database. Redis is more like key value store. But for use cases, for example, when you have a very active online game where you need a lot of communication back and forth, Redis might be more performant. So it makes sense to have your account system and, let's say, I don't know, some global leaderboard across past 3 years in MongoDB and have something really like temporary, like a game state in Redis. So the answer is yes. Like, that was the primary use case. Any other questions?
Thank you so much, Slava.
Oh, OK. Thank you.
Next up, we have Kenton Varda, who is the lead developer at Sandstorm.
OK. Hi, my name is Kenton. I work on an open source project called Sandstorm. Sandstorm is a radically easier way to run personal instances of web apps. So it allows you to have your own personal server and install apps to it through like an app store interface as easily as you would install apps on, say, a phone. So what we're looking at here is my personal local Sandstorm server. I have a bunch of apps installed. MeteorPad is a document editor. Mailpile is an email app. Ghost is a blogging app. Here I've used it to create a blog for my cat. But what I want to show you today is how to take a Meteor app and port it to Sandstorm. So this is going to be my demo app. This is a game called The Game of Why that was written by some Meteor community members named Fred and Harsha. And basically, this is running off their website. It's a board game, but it has a problem right now, which is that there's only one instance of the board. Everyone who goes to this site you can only play one game at a time. You can't have private games. And they could spend a bunch of time implementing all that, but what would be cooler is if everyone who wants to play could install this game on their own server, on their Sandstorm server, and have private games that way. So what I have here, I have the Y source code, and I'm going to go ahead and port it. So the first thing I need to do is say mrt add accounts Sandstorm. So Sandstorm has a unified login system that sits in front of all the apps, and we want to integrate that. So I've created a package for that. Apps on Sandstorm should only use this accounts package, not any of the other standard ones. Next, we need to use a tool, Meteor SPK, which you can download from us. And we're going to use it to create a new Sandstorm package definition file. And I'm going to open that up in a text editor here. And I'm going to edit one thing, which is the default action title here, where it says new example app instance. We're going to call this new Y game. Next up, Meteor SPK again. Dev is the command. This connects to the local Sandstorm server and makes the app available on it so I can test it. It'll just take a moment while it's bundling the Meteor app there. 3, 2, 1. There it goes. So now we have Y here. I can create a new Y game, and this is actually spinning up a whole new Meteor server in a container. And so, yeah, you can see it has my username correctly there. I can make moves. And I could send this URL to a friend, and they could play with me. I can also create multiple games. So the next thing I want to do is, of course, create a package. So I go pack y.spk. So that, it takes a while, actually. But what it's going to do is it's going to create a file that I can send to a friend. And then they can go to their Sandstorm server and go to upload an app and just upload that file in order to install it. So you can install arbitrary software to your server. It doesn't have to come from the App Store. And that's about all I had to show. If you want to try out Sandstorm, go to demo.sandstorm.io. We actually have Game of Y already in the app list, so you can try it right there. We are currently running a funding campaign on Indiegogo, igg.me/@/Sandstorm. Check that out, please. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions for Kenton? Question back here.
When I deploy a server, or when I deploy an app, does it stay active? Will it continue to run?
Question is, will the app continue to run once you deploy it? And the answer is no. Once you close the tab, it is aggressively shut down in order to save resources.
Any other questions for Kenton?
What platforms do you guys currently support for Meteor?
The question is, what platforms do we currently support? It's a native code sandbox, so anything that runs on Linux, any tech stack, can work on this. We only have the super easy tool for Meteor right now, but it's not that hard to port other things as well, as long as they run on Linux.
All right. We have a question from Yuri on Twitter. Is Sandstorm made with Meteor, and is it open source?
Yes, the front end here is a Meteor app. The back end is a bunch of C++ code that launches containers and such. And it is all open source. It's on GitHub. You can find the link from sandstorm.io.
All right. Thank you so much, Kenton.
Thank you.
OK. Next up, we have Ben Morse and Alex Fuhr. They were contestants in our most recent Meteor Summer Hackathon, and they won in the most entertaining category.
Stand back. Testing. Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Ben. This is Alex with me. We came to Meteor headquarters this weekend, and we entered the hackathon, and we are going to show you flying a drone. We want to get this iPad up on the projector, okay, if you wouldn't mind. All right, so we had a team of 4, and we built this project in 24 hours. So if you guys would all like to fly the drone, please go to meteorfliesdrone.com on your laptop, or .meteor.com. Everybody get that down? I'll leave it up there for a second longer. All right. Now, it's going to be a little bit tricky because I'm going to have to stand behind the drone in order to pilot it safely while you guys pilot it unsafely.
All right, so I'll quickly explain the 2 modes of control we have here. The first one is known as democracy. And if you're familiar with Twitch Plays Pokemon, this should be easy to get. So every 5 seconds, it chooses the highest voted command and then runs that for 1 second. And you should see that running in a little bit.
We got to connect to the drone here. There we go. All right, I'm going to stand if you scoot back a little bit here.
It's dangerous stuff.
Super dangerous. All right.
Yeah, democracy's pretty trustworthy.
All right, everybody, you ready? Here we go. Come on. Okay, so we got to get some altitude here. Now, everybody start voting. Click as much as you go. Click, 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 click.
All right, so we got forward.
Go, go, go.
Forward.
I'll get it back.
All that.
All right, I'm going to get it back in the center of the room. Okay. Start voting.
Okay, so in a little bit we're gonna switch over to our next mode, which is known as anarchy, for those of you familiar with Twitch Plays Pokemon. And that means every command that people input is processed in a queue. Not all at the same time, but you know, it's kind of sequentially.
Are we ready for democracy?
For chaos?
Anarchy.
Or anarchy, whatever it's called. I wrote it, but I forgot what it's called. All right, here we go.
All right, switching over.
Anarchy.
And commands are coming very fast. It's trying its hardest. You can just imagine the chaos of like trying to progress the drone to a common point with like all these people controlling at the same time.
Save your papers.
Oh no, it's heading straight for the camera. Oh no. Oh no, what are we going to do?
Are you counter-controlling it? Or you letting us
Both, because we don't want to crash into anything dangerous. So I do have the master control, yes. Okay, is that enough? Everybody have enough, or you want some more? All right.
All right, let's have a round of applause. Questions for Alex and Ben?
Oh, we're actually not done yet. We got some more to show you guys. We got to talk about all the awesome architecture going on here.
All right, well, you should submit a talk for next Devshop.
Okay, any questions?
Any questions, for example, about architecture?
How are you interfacing the Meteor server to the controller?
So the libraries that we use were ARDrone and PubNub. Oh, sorry. The question was, how are we interfacing the drone to the website? So these are the libraries that we're using, which is Node ARDrone and PubNub. And here's a picture of the architecture drawn out beautifully. Basically, the vertical arrows between the browser and Meteor.com are just normal Meteor.calls. The problem with the drone is that it has its own access point. So the laptop has to connect to the access point that's on the drone, which means you have to either have 2 network cards or an alternative way of getting internet. So in this case, I've used my Apple iPhone with my Apple laptop, and I'm doing a Bluetooth hotspot. So my phone is connected to or my laptop is connected to the phone to the internet, and that's how I get PubNub commands coming down with a separate instance of the Meteor app running on my laptop. And then my laptop also connects to the access point of the drone, and that is how the PubNub messages come through. And so what we did was basically the app is almost identical, except for we set a collection to tell it whether it's on the cloud or whether it's on the laptop. And I had a group of developers that were working on the democracy, the voting, and all that stuff during the hackathon. And I basically just rewired Meteor.call. So they didn't matter. They Meteor called to say drone left, drone right, and it didn't matter if it was on the cloud or if it was on the laptop, because if it was on the cloud, it'd be a PubNub message, and if it was on the laptop, it would just send out directly. So we do actually have 2 instances of Meteor running for this. Any other questions?
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Great work. Next up, we have Adam Williams and David Furlong, who were also at the Meteor hackathon this past weekend. They're presenting Meteor Neo 4J, which won the award for most technically impressive. So please welcome Adam and David.
Hi guys, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. What? Yes? Okay, I hear myself, awesome. So we came to the Meteor Hackathon last weekend and we were sick of building things that we just threw away at the end of hackathons because we seem to do that often. So we wanted to build a tool and we searched around online and we found out that a bunch of people were requesting that someone integrate Neo4j with Meteor, and it just so happened that we had been using Neo4j ourselves a bunch. And so what is Neo4j? Well, it's a graph database. Graph databases are cool because they consist of edges and nodes, and you can traverse the graph via the actual relationships rather than joining tables and stuff like that. It doesn't really matter. Look into it, it's awesome. So anyways, we didn't get that far, but we basically did what Slava and Justin did for Redis. We built a Neo4j live data section, and David put together a mini Neo4j section for the client. We haven't done latency compensation at all, and we actually haven't connected our two components. But what we do have is a demo of just creating nodes within Neo4j's interface, and we've got our simple to-do list thing here. So I'm going to go in and I have this create node script, and I'm just going to change the title of this to be Slava. And there you go. So Neo4j is hooked up, and we have a lot of work to do, but I've done most of the live data stuff, and David can talk about the problems associated with mini Neo4j.
Yeah, so there's two components to this project. There's the live data component and the mini project, just like with Redis and Mongo. And the real problem I faced was trying to create an in-memory graph database because there wasn't really anything out there that was like fully fledged, and we had to basically create Neo4j from scratch in order to try and make this work. So I've kind of done that, but now the next step is integrating all of that with Meteor. So the latency compensation and getting everything working. And so we're continuing to work on this project. And if anyone's interested in helping out, we're not that experienced with this. So we're just learning. But we hope that we can build something that will be useful to people. I mean, I use graph databases for most of my projects because I just like data that's in a graph format and working with it. So, yep, that's what we're working on. Does anyone have any questions?
You can help us contribute if you want.
Okay, thanks so much. We have questions.
Cool, thank you.
All right, thank you. Up next, we have Harrison Harnish, who is a software engineer at Apple.
So first off, is there anybody out here who's written Python before? All right. So what I've done is written a DDP client in Python. And basically what that allows you to do is just about anything that you can do with the current, the node DDP client. So you can connect and you can do all the pub/sub stuff, and you can also call, log in. I've got the new new login system implemented as well. So to demo this, I built a super basic chat app. And really all this has is just one collection, and it's got a bunch of messages in it. So let's look at that. Let's look at some code. So here's the Meteor client. We tell it where to connect, and then we set ourselves a callback. It takes a collection, the name of the ID that comes in any field. So then we hook that up to an added event. So anytime we get a new message that's added, we call this callback. In this case, we're just going to print something out. Then we connect, and then we subscribe to these messages. So let's see that in action. So can you guys see that? So these two are going to stay in sync. So if I send another message like, hey, it just gets printed out. That's kind of boring. It's only one way. So let's do something a little better. Python's got this really sweet chat.py. So they've got this really nice library out there called Erwid that lets me implement a full UI in the terminal. So I can say, sup, and we have communication. So I can talk to somebody on the command line, just, it goes both ways. So does anybody have any questions?
Slava.
So other implementations of DDP clients in Python, how is this implementation? Like, are those implementations abandoned, and that's why you started this one, or how does it work?
So the question was, are there other implementations of this in Python? The answer is yes. I found the documentation on those to be sparse, and some of the implementation actually were not as complete as they said they were. And some of the syntax I didn't really like, so I tried to make something that was easy to use and kind of felt like the way Meteor should be, I guess. Yes. So the question was, how challenging was DDP to work with? I had the added advantage of having the example that was in the Meteor code base, so I was able to bootstrap myself there, and I basically took that and made it event-driven. So there was no waiting. Everything is getting. It's all done with callbacks. Yes.
Just so I understand it, so you can have a Meteor app, and using your library, essentially have like an API connect to it on the Python library.
So the question was.
Onto a browser, and you can also have it go to like a Python.
So to reiterate your question, you asked. So I've got a Meteor app. And I've got a UI, and I've got a server. And then I've got this other thing that can connect that's written in Python. Yes, that's absolutely correct. It's connecting over WebSockets.
Okay, thanks so much, Harrison.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Sean Lee. He's co-founder of Kite Development Group. Please welcome Sean.
Hi, I'm Sean from Kite. We're building a self-hosted mini Heroku using Docker written in Meteor. So let me just show you a quick demo of the product. So here's the dashboard. So essentially how it works is you can create an image, a Docker image from your GitHub repository and then run the application. So let me just create a really basic HTML application on Nginx. So I hit create image. Here I can pick my organizations. I pick the HTML repository. And here I can pick the reference. You could pick any branch, any tags, or a pull request. So I just hit my master branch. So the app is being built right now. You can actually check out the logs. Show up in a bit. It's all streamed thanks to Meteor. It's showing in real time. Oh, looks like the application is built. I can start creating an application. Let's just name it Mike's HTML app. Hit create application. 2 seconds, it's up. So now I can see the app running live. OK, so now I want to make a change to the application using my favorite Atom editor. Okay. Just change that to hello Meteor. I save. And I can use the GitHub tool. So the dashboard actually has a webhook to it, so you can see that it already created a new image. Cool, it's created. Let's name a new app. Here you can see the updated version right now. So that's Kite, and we will be open source and launching next week. Definitely check us out and submit issues, feedbacks. Thank you.
Questions for Sean?
How much of the, I guess these are running in containers. I mean, you mentioned it was kind of like Heroku, so
yeah.
How much of that is managed through Meteor versus like, you know, like a Sandstorm.io was C++ on like a hardcore base.
And so the question is how much of the application is running on Meteor. So it's actually most of the features are running in Meteor right now. So we actually use a lot of native NPM packages and wrap it in Fiber and yeah.
Do you have thoughts on how to handle apps that consist of multiple containers? So like, say for instance, my HTML app also had a dependency on Redis. And I want to run Redis in a separate container.
So the question is, you want to run multiple apps and one can be dependent on another, like a web service. Yes, that's definitely on the roadmap. So you can actually link two containers together, so you share environment variables, and you can actually access, for example, Redis in your Node app.
All right, thank you very much, Sean. Okay, next we have Andy Lash, who is founder of Opstarts, Inc.
Hello. Let me get this going here. Right. Groovy. Okay, so let's make that bigger. Cool. So Opstarts, it's basically a new take on operational planning. So what is operational planning? It's stuff like budgets and forecasts and runway. And if you have a startup and you maybe want investors, they demand this stuff. Or if you just want to run a business in a reasonable way, you need to be able to make decisions like can I afford to hire this person, or how much should I charge, or what about annual, what should the discount be, all of that stuff. It doesn't require that you have like a finance background, and today mostly people do it in Excel, and Excel sucks, so this is sort of a different take. Cool, let me just reload that. All right, so I'm in OpStarts. It's a Meteor application. We picked Meteor because for several reasons. So one of them is it's nice and reactive. So that's what you're seeing here. Over on the left, I've got a bunch of elements that make up my plan, so stuff like employees, expenses, which could be one-time or ongoing, monthly, annual, growing, all of that sort of stuff. I've got a bunch of different types of products. I was inspired by my T-shirt today, so I decided to build a bacon-as-a-service business plan, so that's what we're seeing here. All right, cool. So over here on the right side, this is basically showing like what the financials of the plan look like. And on the top right, you can see that I've got a runway of 1 month, meaning I'm going to run out of money in a month. So that sucks. So let's say I'm able to raise some money, and I get a seed investment of, say, $250,000. So cool. So that makes it 10 months. That's a lot better. Other stuff I might do, I could say, well, I'm planning to hire this designer, but instead of hiring him, maybe I bring in a contractor instead. So I've disabled that one and enabled this thing. A second reason why I really was interested in Meteor is because it plays well with others, and we need lots of views on the same data. So here are the kind of standard chart visualizations, and that's all high charts, but maybe you want to look at it as a grid instead. We also have this idea that looking at it over time is interesting. So this is a calendar control that we built, and I can, if I want to move things around because I want to hire someone at a different time, I can certainly do that. Similarly, over here, there's this view where it gives a nice like D3 kind of circuit diagram. And when you're building a plan, things relate to each other. So you can see over here, here's my like basic subscription model, and that's being fed by an ad campaign that's driving some money. And then since I'm sending people bacon, I also have to buy the bacon, so there's a cost here. And I can look at that over time, and eventually I've got my premium version that also involves pancetta, apparently, and then I can continue to scroll over time, and then later I'm going to try to sell people pans that they can make bacon in, and that also has a cost. Cool. All right, so going back here, I wanted to look at growth. I thought that's sort of like an interesting thing. So if I dig into that basic product again, you can see that most of my sales, and here's sort of the starting subscribers and the ending subscribers, most of them are being driven by this ad campaign that I have. So, if that's working, why not try to do more? So instead of just advertising on Google, let me add a new expense, and I'll do Facebook ads and spend some money, maybe not $100,000 though, doing that. And then I can link this to my basic subscription product. And my cost per lead, I'll assume it's similar to Google, so I'll put in $10 for that. And you can see, cool, so that gave me more subscribers here. My runway is now over 5 years, which means a sustainable business that only gets within $2,000 of zero, which is actually kind of terrifying. But anyway, maybe there's more to work on there. Other stuff, if you want to dig into your expenses, you can do that. You can filter however you like there. Similarly, you can do that with revenues. And then over here, there's a big section of reports. So if you have to present to your investors, that stuff is easy. You don't have to make spreadsheets. So anyway, we're now in an open alpha. So if you've got a company and you want to do planning and you don't want to do it with a crappy spreadsheet, come talk to me or send me email at Andy@OpStarts.
Thanks, Andy. Do we have questions for Andy?
Yeah.
Is it open sign up? Do we have to email you to?
No, you can sign up on the site. Oh, is it open sign up? Yeah. So you can sign up on the site, but then we approve you because we're trying to kind of control the number of people right now.
All right, we have a question from Twitter. What D3 library for visualizing graphs was that?
It's D3 and then something called digraph that's doing the direct acyclic graphs. I feel like there's more to the name of that library that I'm forgetting, so I'll go look it up.
Okay. Thank you very much, Andy.
Cool, thanks.
All right, next up, our second to last speaker is Bo Zhao Yu.
Hey, how you guys doing? Hope this is not too loud, is it?
Don't worry about it. They'll take care of it for you.
All right. So last year, about last May, I did some sort of package called Link External Account to Meteor users. What it is if you have a Meteor user, you want to link additional like Facebook or Twitter or whatever, it's kind of hard. So this way, it's pretty easy. You can just use a syntax called meteor.link with Facebook, link with Twitter, stuff like that. And you can link to the account. It will sign in with either account you have. It's pretty cool. At the time, there's a couple of technical difficulties. I couldn't make it into a smart package and make a pull request. Then later on, other things pile up in my head. I was like, just random business came up and just kind of abandoned it. So after a year, 2 months ago, a month ago, I started revisiting it. And from a year of learning, I solved those problems, or I hope I did solve those problems. I want to share how I solved it. The first is learn from Meteor. It's so great to dive in their source code, just read everything about it, line by line, read all of their change, definitely watch their repo every day, like when you wake up, get on like GitHub, just, ooh, they did that. So before, the first goal is we don't want to change any of the core code. We don't want to change the account.create or update, user or whatever. We don't want to overwrite anything. So what we can do is we can actually use a hook called, login handle. You can make one yourself. I made one called link. So whenever you go through the whole process, it won't go through the old authorized version. It won't go through the password. It will just go through link and will do the whole linking. Another issue that was really, really hard a year ago when I was pretty dumb was some people use account Facebook. Somebody use account Twitter. There's like 5 or 6 of them available for Meteor, the core package, and some other people are running something else. You want the smart package that's able to know what accounts package you have and add necessary files and functions for it. That was pretty hard. Then one day I stumbled on Arenado's fast rendering. You have something that's a function in there that does look up the package directory of the existing of your project. So I wrap around in a function called is package available. So I can check if the package available, I will add whatever the file in there. So with those 2 technologies solved, they become a normal Meteor smart package. Now you don't need to be on core. You don't have to like make a pull request and hope they will put it in, and which is actually really good. I'm really glad they reject that pull request or just didn't accept it, because it actually forced me to learn it more. So I hope the takeaway for today is stuck in Meteor and stuck in everyone in the Meteor community to learn from the development team and to learn from the community. So thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for Bo? All right, thank you.
Awesome.
So finally, we have Evan Weinberg, who is a high school math and physics teacher at Hangzhou International School.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Again, my name's Evan. I've been a math and science teacher for the last 11 years in high school, the last 4 at Hangzhou International School in Hangzhou, China. I'm going to talk today about coding not in the classroom, as in teaching kids to code, but coding for the classroom. The basic thing I'm looking for here are ways to make it so that I am reducing dead time. I define dead time to be time that is not directly involved in helping students learn. Collecting, distributing, organizing, displaying information, passing out handouts, getting information from students. These are things that actually computers are really, really good at, and Meteor in particular has helped me with. So my first attempt at this was to automate a game that I tried playing with students that did not go over well just because it was really hard. It took a long time to manage all the little bits of paper, handing them out to students, collecting them, and organizing them. So this became my first Meteor project to play this game automated. And so I picked up Discover Meteor. Obviously, it's amazing. Helped me make this happen along with some great people in the Meteor community. And ultimately, I was able to play this multiple times within a single class period. It worked extremely well, and the kids had a great time. The biggest Meteor app that I put together, a little vain, I suppose, but this was to make it so that I could manage students who were signing up to do retakes of quizzes online. I use something called standards-based grading. Students come in and show me that they have mastered one concept versus another, but it became a real pain to manage all of this using pencil and paper, forget it. Google Docs I used for a while, but it was still a lot of jumping around. And so I used Meteor to put something together. Students could sign up for a quiz at a given time. They could look and see what assessments they had signed up for, what quizzes they had signed up for. And also, I have the system of credits, which make it so they can't just sign up a billion times. If they do homework, see me after school, they get a credit, which they then can use to sign up. And for me, I saw all of the assessments real time at the same time, and I knew at the beginning of the day exactly who was going to be coming in. Made things really easy. The final thing I wanted to do, I had this idea for a probability lesson, getting students doing a little gambling, you know, again, not real money. So I made up some currency, gave it to them, and had them play this game. And after about 3,000 clicks, I ended up with a whole bunch of interesting data points that I could use to talk to students about. Long story short, you're probably not impressed. I bet all of you in this room could probably put together something like this in a fraction of the time. I'm not a coder. The most important thing I want you to see is that Meteor makes it possible to go from an idea to an app that I can then use with my students in a minimal amount of time. And as a teacher, that is super cool. Thank you.
We have questions for Evan.
Yes?
What do you think are the hardest things to learn being a non-coder in Meteor?
The question was, what are the hardest things to learn in Meteor being a non-coder? I guess probably learning to find the errors in my code. You know, I didn't know what was going wrong. I know that the mistakes I was making were pretty basic because pretty much the exact error messages that came up I could find almost verbatim on Stack Overflow. So that made it really easy to make progress. But really talking to other people, some of the ideas that I had, I think the hardest part were wiring in a back end to the front end, and I really didn't learn what either of these things were. I mean, I think I knew, but Meteor made it so smooth connecting the two that that wasn't an issue. So I'm very thankful for that. Yes?
Do you have any students offering to help you fix things?
The question was, do I have any students offering to help me fix? I had a lot of students who were really impressed with some of the things that I was able to pull out, even really basic. Again, it was Meteor that made the magic. But, you know, my students aren't really coders, but I decided to pitch a web programming course for next year, and I have some kids signed up for it. And Meteor, I think, is going to be one of the main things we're using in that. So my hope is that as I get these ideas for apps, I can kind of pawn those things off to students and say, you design this for me, I need it tomorrow, please, for my first period class.
We have a question from Twitter.
Okay, go ahead.
Yuri would like to know, are you based in China, and what other countries have you been to or are going to soon?
Sure. I am, again, I've taught at the Hangzhou International School for 4 years. I taught in New York City for 7, and then moved with my wife, who also teaches there. We're going to be there for a little while, maybe another year or two. We'll see. But I mean, being in China is great because you get to visit all the amazing countries that are over there. Right now, this is a tail end of our Cross America tour to see family and friends. But we're going to be headed back on Sunday, so more excitement ahead. Slava, yes.
Do you know any other teachers who do something like this? If you don't, can you teach them?
Actually, so I was helped by 2 people. Dave, the question was, do I know other teachers who are coding with Meteor or don't know Meteor, and if so, can I help them? I was helped by 2 teachers. One was named Dave Major, another Brent Abraham, he teaches at the Western Academy of Beijing. Incredibly talented people, and they really have pushed me in the right direction. I would like to kind of pay it forward to other teachers and maybe make some simple videos just showing how to do some basic things that would make sense in the classroom. But again, time is a limited resource, so we'll see if and hopefully when that happens.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
So that was our last talk of Meteor Devshop. If you're watching online, please subscribe. The button should be around here. We have Devshop twice a month. We have it once in London and once in San Francisco. So the next date for London is to be determined soon. You can keep an eye out on our YouTube channel for videos. And our next Devshop San Francisco is going to be August 21st. So that is a slightly different date from when we usually do it. Devshop is usually the last Thursday of the month, but due to a certain desert festival that will greatly reduce the population of San Francisco, we are holding it August 21st instead. So please subscribe to YouTube, join us on meetup.com if you aren't already, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. For those of you who are here in person, as you leave, could you please A, pick up at least one piece of trash and dispose of it accordingly, and 2, pick up your chair that you're sitting on.